Amongst a sea of other hardcore action RPGs this year, Black Myth Wukong's far faster pace and intriguing adaptation of a classic Chinese novel could give it enough gusto to stand out. As far as hardcore action RPGs made in the Dark Souls mold go, this is as confident and beautiful a take as they come. Yes, Black Myth Wukong certainly builds off the combat fundamentals that came before, but it does so while infusing a much faster pace and magic spells that promise to take the sting out of the genre's usual high difficulty. Beginning in an area close to the start of the final release, my first impression of Black Myth Wukong unsurprisingly related to the visuals. Developed in Unreal Engine 5, the Forest of Wolves was a zone that left me utterly staggered by the amount of detail of its water-drenched greenery, far-off ancient temples, and generally soaked-through atmosphere. No doubt it helps that my demo build was running off of a top-of-the-line PC setup. That said, if game science can channel even half of what I saw on my 4K monitor on consoles, then players on PS5 and Xbox Series X are also in for a visual treat. With god rays blooming through the tree line above and the crunch of leaves sounding beneath my feet, it was time to see if Black Myth Wukong's world was just as fun to engage with as it was to look at. Equipped with a large staff as opposed to the traditional sword and board setup you typically see in games like this, taking the fight to enemy NPCs has an instant sense of immediacy to it. While some Souls-likes invite you to be reserved or aggressive depending on your choice of weapon, that choice being taken away from me here meant I had no fear about jumping into the fray up close. Wukong, the titular silent protagonist, didn't function as an unstoppable machine though, given that throughout the entirety of my demo I was left without the ability to block or parry. I was assured by the game's creative director who I spoke to that this maneuver will come in time. For the time being though, the sprightly dodge was my best friend. The combat's expected mix of light and heavy attacks was satisfyingly broken up by my ability to gain a focus point, where once gained by dishing out enough hits, allowed me to unleash an even more powerful combo by tapping the right button in a chain sequence. It seemed a good solution, different from conventional parrying, that kept me invested in every one-on-one encounter without disrupting the natural flow of Wukong's quick-paced strikes. There's a gracefulness to attacking that even recent Souls-like hits such as Stellar Blade and Lies of P before it were lacking, as good as both were in their own right. It made having my combo interrupted by a well-placed enemy attack all the more soul-crushing. Other genre spins Black Myth Wukong brings to the table centre around spells and transformations. The latter serves as a limited time super move of sorts that temporarily transforms Wukong into the guise of a former boss, which also brings with it heftier attacks that made steamrolling through general grunts and larger enemy groups far less of a chore. In this instance, the form I took was that of Jinchi, a towering elder chimp of sorts that came equipped with a fire staff much larger than mine. I was amazed at just how easy the act of fighting him would be to miss too, given how tucked away into the forest he was. This indicates that a lot, if not most unique transformations to come will be reserved for players with the keenest eye, but they'll be well worth seeking out. Spells, as the other part of Black Myth Wukong's magical equation, are a lot more straightforward in terms of how they function, and though I only had access to one during my short demo, Immobilize, the on-screen UI indicates that up to 3 can be equipped at any one time, sure to come in useful when wanting to get out of any large stakes scrapes. Immobilize freezes enemies in place, as its name suggests, allowing me to lay in plenty of hits onto bosses, in between them leaping out over my head, spinning around up close, and so on. It worked extremely well to give me breathing space amidst the otherwise heated action. This being the first spell Wukong is gifted in game left me intrigued by what other spells game science has in store, and whether or not they'll be just as powerful so as to offset any harsh difficulty. The sheer number of bosses and mini-bosses was nigh on overwhelming, and one of the things that stood out to me most as part of my demo. In just 2 hours of playtime, the first 4 areas I stumbled into saw me glimpse no less than 6, be it a giant white wolf leaping about a courtyard's roofs, a giant stone baby called the Wandering Wight shaking the ground via shockwaves, or ultimately a flying red bearded dragon able to summon lightning and thunder down from above. With claws clamping down around me and several big swoops of the tail, the red bearded dragon was hidden deep enough into the crevice of the map that I got the sense I met him far earlier than what the game intended. Not least because not only was I forced to account for his physical strikes, but any cracks of stray lightning that may or may not appear after the fact around him, combined with giant leaps into the air that put pressure on me to time dodges absolutely perfectly. I'm man enough to admit that without a well-placed freeze cast, I would have definitely had a hard job getting him down. On the note of bosses, I wasn't entirely entirely successful in defeating them all, of course, but each always had me thinking on my feet in ways the previous one hadn't, considering when to best wind up for a heavy staff attack, engage in my Chinji transformation, or deploy that oh so useful immobilize, sometimes using the latter to deal out a flurry of hits fast, or simply give myself enough time in which to down a health vial. From everything I was able to play so far, Black Myth Wukong isn't short on spectacle, and sure, while most are likely to be left flummoxed by the sheer way it looks, the truth is that Game Science's action RPG spin appears to have just as much of interest occurring under the hood too. The melee combat itself is snappy and agile, while the spell and transformation mechanics bring a lot of variety, sure to assist non-traditional Souls-like fans. Despite only being able to try out one of Wukong's stances, Smash Form, I'm hopeful that the other two, Pillar and Thrust, will prove equally as useful to deploy as more enemy types are slowly introduced. I know this is a game that players have been excited about for a long while now, but guess what? There's only a few more weeks to go until it finally launches on PC, PlayStation and Xbox. Are you excited about picking it up? Be sure to let me know in the comments section below. And if you enjoyed this video, why not leave it a like and consider subscribing to the Mirror Gaming YouTube channel to stay up to date with even more videos like this. Until next time, thank you so much for watching guys, and I'll see you in the next one.